Welcome to Morning Joe with Tom, with your host, Thomas Chappell. Get ready to listen to real-life stories from inspiring leaders who have overcome incredible challenges to rise to the occasion. If you're ready to add some pep to your morning with a new outlook on leadership, then grab your cup of coffee. It's time to be inspired. Here's your host, Thomas Chappell.
Hey, so good afternoon, Terry.
Hi, Tom. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think the last time that we met was through PCCI, and we were doing some coaching classes together. And,
Absolutely.
But you know, for my listeners out there, I know a little bit about your background, but I'd really like for them to kind of get to know you. So, could you give us an introduction, who you are and what you'd like to do?
Well, as Charles Dickens said, I was born at an early age. Well, let's skip that part. So I got an MBA at SMU. I worked for the world's biggest bank. I thought you could only get fired from a bank if you were incompetent or if you were crooked. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way about this thing called emotional intelligence, or in my case, it was emotional stability. I got fired for being a rectum. Yes, that's a polite word for, well, rectum works. But over the course of, I eventually decided to grow up and I became an income property broker. One of my buddies is a Navy doctor, and he summarized my, let's say, 40 plus year career in about 2 sentences. Navy docs are kind of to the point. He said, for a generation, I had been a force multiplier. Does that sound like a Navy doc? I'd been a force multiplier helping people build wealth. And recently, I've become a force multiplier helping people build their legacy. So in San Diego County, I don't know if I can do this for the show, yeah. I'm one of the most active brokers. I've closed a little over 500 transactions. I've helped a couple of hundred families become millionaires or multimillionaires buying income property. I'm not all that special. The things about San Diego County, which have made janitors millionaires. Our government has created a rental housing shortage, and those of us who can buy here do well just because there's 100,000 rental unit shortage in a county of 3.5 million. And there's a separate hour-long thing that we won't do about income property. But for 40 years, I've been helping people make smart choices about mostly money and to some extent about legacy. The book that I wrote, in a writing coach, and he saw the endorsements I got, and he said, this is like a lifetime achievement award, the endorsements you got, because they had heads of international, national, state, local organizations and more than 20 millionaires who endorsed the book. But essentially, part of what I've done for more than 40 years is I've worked with high impact people. That usually means wealthy people, but sometimes it was people of influence, and help them discover who they were, who they could be, who they were. I'm a person of faith, who they were made to become. And then more recently, as a coach, helping them figure out what God wanted them to do. Not everybody is a person of faith, and all of my clients are not people of faith. Most of them are. Most of the people that I serve in a real estate arena, we disagree on politics or spiritual issues. My notion is, I don't have to agree with you, Tom. I need to understand you. And if I understand you, I can serve you. And if you're going for something that I think makes sense, I can say, right on. And alternately, if you're doing something that will lead to what you would consider a bad result, I might say, Tom, is that really congruent? You had said in the past you valued whatever it was, integrity, congruence, whatever your value was. What you're doing now, is that taking where you want to go? So I'm not the judge, I'm a thinking partner. So when people had $1 million to invest, I would say, well, I can help you get the beautiful place on the beach with no cash flow, or I can help you get lots of cash flow, but it's not on the beach. There's no solutions, there's only trade-offs. And here's what the trade-offs are. You tell me what you want and I'll try to help you get it. And if you want something that's impossible, I'll say my magic's not that deep. Well, in coaching, when you and I met in coaching, I was even dumber than I was now. And I wasn't sure that most people were coachable. I'm a bit more experienced now. And I think actually a lot of the people, everybody that I coach is coachable. One of my most interesting sessions was frankly when I got to serve you. In your specialty, Tom, I admire you. I didn't understand some of your vocabulary, but at the end, you're so gracious. You said that it was helpful, and that was very encouraging to me because I respect what you do, and I couldn't do it. And I have some notion of what it cost you to get to where you are, and I don't know that I have that much strength or courage, but the fact that, you know, when I coach somebody that's like me, it's pretty easy. But when I coach somebody who's, I'm not the subject matter expert, and of all the people I've coached, your expertise and mine have been different than more than anybody else that I've coached. It's been a joy to be able to help people kind of figure out how they're wired, how they're gifted, what their passion is, and then try to help them get a little bit closer to it. So I've helped people become wealthy, and that's been good. There's 100,000 people who live in better housing, not because I'm special, but my clients caught the vision of improving the property and making it the best that it could be in their zip code. They can't make a poor person rich, but they can make better housing for the folks who lived in whatever census tract they lived in. And with coaching, it's a similar kind of thing. I can't solve all their problems, but I can helpfully help them figure out other options that might not be obvious to them.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
And forgive me, I'll do one other, a bonus. A few years, I'm a volunteer in a nonprofit group that helps people grow closer to God as they understand God. I have a particular vision of God is, but that's not relevant to this. But part of my habit is at the end of every year-long session, I would give a gift to the guys that I served. And one of the guys was retiring. And so I got him a copy of a book called Halftime: From Success to Significance. I'm cheap, Tom. I'm frugal. So I have some silver hair, and I think one of these days I'm going to retire, and I explored it a little bit and wasn't getting anywhere. And so I read the book before I gave it to the guy. Didn't mark it up, but I read the book and I said, wow, this is great. From success to significance. And whether or not I've had success is maybe debatable, but significance made sense. Americans tend to have a shallow view of success. We think that success is more and more for me and mine. It's about winning. It's about accumulating wealth, power, fame. As we've mentioned, I'm a person of faith. Jesus had a different outlook. He said significance is not about getting more, but it's about giving. And it's usually you give time, talent, or treasure. And typically you give it to people who can't repay you. So I went through a program with Halftime Institute in Dallas, which is a fascinating thing in case somebody has a lot of awards and a lot of achievements, and maybe they made a bunch of money and they're thinking, is this all there is? Well, Halftime was really good for me. It was like a godsend to me because it helped me figure out who I was made to be and how to accomplish it. And it was a year-long coached program. It was disciplined, it was structured, and it's not the right thing for everybody, but it was terrific for me. And at the beginning, if you had to give me a couple of pieces of paper and say, list 100 things you might want to do now that you're grown up, coaching might have been 97th or 103rd on the list. But my fourth private coaching session, my coach said, sounds like you'd like to encourage Christian leaders. And that became what's become an 18-month apprentice program. You and I met through Professional Christian Coaching Institute. I've now, in my 7th or 8th course, I've read 57 books, but who's counting, on coaching, emotional intelligence, spiritual formation, transitions. And for me, halftime was a wonderful way to repurpose. When I was doing it, I said, is it really going to be worth this? And the lady I was talking with, who was an alumni of the program, helped me understand that it would prevent me from spending the dumb tax. And that didn't just mean that I waste money. You and I know people who retired and they flunked retirement. 6 months later, they were bored to tears and they went back to work. And one of my 2 best male friends died within 3 years of retirement. Kind of had nothing to retire to. It was a fluke situation, but he was younger than I am by about 10 years. And he went from perfectly okay to dead in 10 days in a series of bad, fluky, bizarre things. His wife was a doctor. His wife got him into the best emergency care program in one of the 3 best medical groups in San Diego, but he up and died. So on the book that I wrote, most people read the book because they want to know how to build wealth. I wrote the book because I wanted to talk to them about legacy. So other than that, I got nothing to say.
Well, I appreciate it. That was a lot. And there was a lot of gems and all of that. So let's kind of talk about a little bit about client outcomes. So you spoke a lot about coaching. So what can a client expect that would be different as a result of working with you at this time?
So I'm going to spend most of my time on that, but I will make a reference to the past. I'm still doing brokerage 3 days a week.
Okay.
People come to me as a investor. They want to usually buy income property. Maybe they want to sell the perfectly good property they've got and they want to do something else for the next phase of life. But when people want to buy, they are successful, they have high IQ, they have high net worth, and their mom has told them they're special, and 90% of them will never buy. And part of my superpower is I explain to a high achiever, I'm really glad you're wealthy. You're not special. You're competing against people who are more experienced than you are, who are at least as crafty as you are, who are probably wealthier than you are, and they understand how the game is played. And you, Tom, or anybody else that I meet in that way, I said, you could go to a luxury car dealer in 3 years, in 3 hours, you can drive away with a brand new, whatever you want. I get that. And that doesn't mean squat when you want to buy income property here, because there are multiple buyers for income properties. So since COVID hit San Diego 3 years ago, I closed 60 transactions. Every transaction that I closed, there've been multiple buyers. If it was less than $1 million, if it was above 5 million, if I was on the buy side, if I was on the sell side, there were multiple buyers. So I have to say, like an attorney, I have to say to my client, here's the strengths and weaknesses of your case. You need to know the weaknesses. I won't tell the other side your weaknesses, but you need to be aware of them. And the fact that you're wealthy and you're charming and you're good looking, that just gets you into the game. That's the opening ante. By the way, you're 2 laps behind. I can get you into the game and we can probably help you close, but it's going to be harder than you think because you're not as special as your mom said. So I've given that speech
Wow.
a couple of thousand times to people who want to be investors.
Yeah.
And as a coach, people frequently, I encounter them when they're stuck. They've had outrageous success. They may or may not have thought about what their success has cost them. But when they come to me, they might be stuck and they might be thinking, my marriage is falling apart. My kids can't remember my name. My clients are insatiable. My best friend just died. What's going on? I've got these circumstances in life. People of faith might be saying, what I used to believe years ago, it's harder for me to accept that now. But for whatever reason, they got a problem. And part of what even if I knew the solution, you and I as coaches know we don't tell them the solution.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you the answer, you might consider it. And if you try my solution and it doesn't work, well, I'm a lousy consultant. But Tom, you and I know that as a client, if the client discovers something, the client owns it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you and I do a good job of coach, the client talks 80% of the time, and our job is to hear what they need. And then when they say something remarkable, to accent that or to ask questions about it. Almost all of us do most of our thinking by talking. Relatively few of us write to think. You're a writer, not everybody is. I mean, lots of people write, but in terms of putting a coherent plan together, a lot of us discover what we think, and a lot of us learn by writing. Well, coaching is not primarily about writing, but we're helping people figure out what's important to them. So one of the models that I've adopted is the coach as a thinking partner. So Tom, you came to me and you were advising somebody on infrastructure, and you would say, well, it seems like there's plan A or plan B. If I was a good coach, I'd say, Tom, if there was a plan C or D, what would they be? And in coaching, part of my job is to help you figure out a new awareness. I don't invent the ideas. I help you figure out what you already know. You've been successful at what you do, which I sort of understand, but I couldn't do. But if I can help you remember a similar thing that you can adapt, that's how I bring value. And to the extent, if you come up with a third-rate solution, even if I had a better solution, if you come up with a third-rate solution, then you're Tom. You're the warrior. You've invented it. You're going to give it all you got. And if it doesn't work, we'll talk again. And you'll be smarter. You do the after action review. That's been part of who you are for a long, long time. And you'll come at it smarter the second time around. And because you're committed, you're going to try hard. It's not quite like we're not going to leave any man behind, but because you're committed, because you're a successful guy, you will find a way to get it done. And I'm your thinking partner. And I might say, Tom, look, I know you value integrity. I know you value safety. I know you value prudence. That's a really daring idea. Does that fit with who you are? And if you say, you betcha, then I said, go for it, dude. But to me, the coaching, again, I'm a man of faith. One of my primary ideas of a coach is die to self. As a real estate broker, I'm the know-it-all. I wrote a book. I am a legend in my own mind. I'm the man. As a coach, anything that I did in the past is completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
As a man of faith, to me, the Abrahamic covenant, Tom, that means that your gifts and my gifts are not important for what they do for me. They're only important for what our gifts do for other people.
Yeah.
The coaching is a wonderful thing because it's not about me. It's about helping the client become the best that she or he can be. And if they're focused on who they're going to be first, then it's relatively easy to figure out what to do. You can learn the skills, whether it's marksmanship, sky diving, whatever. You can learn the skills of how to play the piano. But if you're not made to be a piano player, you don't need to do that, and you wouldn't be very good at it. Was that?
Amen to that, man. That's yeah, that was really good. So we've kind of reaching the later half of the of the episode. So how would someone reach out to you to get more information from you, both from the real estate side and from the coaching side? Do you have a preference of how that they reach out?
So I've sent you the link to my blog so they can kind of try my ideas before they buy. And that's building legacy wealth, and you're going to give it to them in writing. And it's extremely unlikely that anybody will want to buy apartment buildings in San Diego County or single tenant triple nets anywhere in the US. But my real estate is san diego apartment broker.com. But those are in the links that you're going to be providing to them. It's been an honor to be with you today. Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yep. So as we part ways, is there any closing remarks that you would have for the listeners? Any encouragement or wise words?
It's hard for most of us to stop and think about what's really most important. So Harvard has a longevity center, Stanford has a longevity center, and they've even done surveys of nurses who served in hospice care. And hardly anybody says, boy, I wish I'd have spent more time in the office. Almost nobody says, boy, I wish I'd have bought more crap. But lots of people say, I wish I had taken more prudent risks. Many people say, I wish I had tried my heart's desire. I wish I had worked on my passion. And part of what I've gotten out of coaching is if you can get a clue about why you were made, whether you believe in God or not, if you can get an idea of why you have a particular set of gifts and skills and passions and interests and who your platform is, who likes you and trusts you, who knows your character and wants to work with you, if you can figure out how you can serve people in ways that they benefit and that you're adding value, that's about as good as it gets with your clothes on. And I'm glad to be with you, and hope that we continue to do more things in the future.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, thank you for coming to the show, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Very good. Take care.
Good one.
Thanks for listening to Morning Joe with Tom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. See you next time for more real-life stories and inspiration on Morning Joe with Tom.